All right, folks, welcome back to NFL Week 15 with McLovin.
What's up, guys?
And who do we have here with us today?
We have a special guest on here today.
My name is Hoy Hoy Toy Toy, but that's just an alias. I'm actually David Avedon, the lead vocalist for the Psychopaths. But I'm going to call myself Hoy Hoy Toy Toy, and if you don't like it, sue me.
So, Week 15, we had a lot, or Week 14, we had a lot of stuff going on. Cincinnati got buried at home by the Bears. It screwed me on a parlay, on a teaser. Speaking of which, Don Pinozzo, I'm telling him about the team, because every week he goes, how'd you do? And I say every week, one team kills me. And you know, Joe, one team kills me. So he looks at my computer screen and he closes his eyes.
Yeah.
I forgot to tell you this. He closes his eyes. So he puts his hand on the computer screen like this. Silence for like 5-8 seconds.
Yeah.
He takes his hand off and says, "I guarantee you'll win." I said, "But what if I don't?" He goes, "I guarantee you'll win."
But that was the first one.
That was the first one. I lost.
Yeah.
That's the one he guaranteed.
Correct.
Okay,
I got you.
So I lost, and I told John, and he was laughing. All right, so let's go right into the news and notes. Okay. So here we go, Pat. We'll go to you. It's December in Detroit, and Jim Caldwell is once again on the hot seat with the Lions in danger of missing the playoffs. Head coach Jim Caldwell, with Martha there, once again finds himself fielding questions about his future in Detroit.
Well, they had a big win yesterday. With that being said, you know, Detroit, I think I said this maybe 4 or 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks ago when they played Monday night. They should have beat the Steelers at home, and I think that was kind of a turning point in their season. You know, they play in a tough division, you know, the NFC North. They really had a great opportunity when Aaron Rodgers went down to really solidify themselves at the top of that division, and what ended up happening was Minnesota, you know, ran off, I think, 9 straight wins until they tripped up yesterday at Carolina. You know, Jim Caldwell is... It's very difficult to evaluate him. He's not a terrible head coach. He's middle-of-the-pack guy. I think he's a guy that's going to get your team to 500. I don't think he's a guy that's going to out-coach anybody on Sundays. I think a lot of it has to the offense was inconsistent. I know earlier on in this season we were talking about the coordinator, Jim Bob Cooter, as the guy who's really was the brains behind the operation. But, you know, I'm not a big Matt Stafford fan. I never have been. You know, they have some talent on that offensive side of the ball. They had some injuries to their running backs, but at the same time, you know, they've lost some really close games. And I don't think he should be on the hot seat. I don't think that it's worth firing him. I don't think he's doing that terrible of a job. But if you can get your hands on a guy that you know that will come to you if you do fire Caldwell, or maybe they just fire Caldwell and promote Jim Bob Cooter. They could do that as well. But, you know, I think Detroit is, you know, it's tough, you know, to be a Detroit fan. They really haven't won much since, you know, Barry Sanders left. And he didn't even win that much, you know, back in the day. So I think that if I were to guess, I'd say his job is safe.
All right, so Hoy Hoy Toy Toy. Tom Savage concussion makes clear that NFL's protocol has major issues. So, if the Texans quarterback could show potential symptoms one moment, then be backhand center the next, the policy isn't good enough. Here's how to improve it. So, what is your thought process on the NFL's concussion protocol? And do you think the teams are just trying to throw him back out there because of expectations? Do they care about the player's health? What do you think?
Well, back in the Roman days, they had the gladiators, and the gladiators faced real lions, not Detroit lions, but real lions. Now we get the NFL, which isn't quite as bad, but it's pretty bad. It's like getting hit over the head with a lead pipe, and I wouldn't recommend that for anybody. So, consequently, it's part of the game. People in football are going to get hurt. There's no way around it. It's a brutal game. Same with hockey. The protocols are needed because people are getting seriously injured. Their life expectancies are getting shortened. And there comes a point where somebody just has to say, well, the money isn't going to even going to be worth it. For $20 million, I'm not going to have my brain scrambled and be a vegetable for the rest of my life.
I think that's a great take on the whole thing. I mean, you know, this is our version. This is our version of gladiator. It's a gladiator sport. I mean, you know, I was talking to a guy yesterday, and you know, the human body that these guys, you know, they're not meant to go full speed, force on force into each other for 70 plays a game. That's why it's like getting, you know, he said get hit on the head with a lead pipe. It's like getting into a car accident every Sunday, and that's why it takes a week to come back for the next week, you know, to play again. Now, as far as the concussions go, it's really a double-edged sword here. You got to look at it from both angles of the spectrum. A, being that these guys know what they sign up to do. Okay, they're getting paid a lot of money. They know what they're doing. They have a full you know. They understand that they're in a business where they could possibly, you know, lose their life or become paralyzed in any play that happens. With that being said, you know, I think that I've seen guys get concussed on the sidelines, and I've been concussed, you know, and it's like being blacked out for an extended period of time. You can't make a decision on your own. Now, with that being said, to put a guy back in the game that was just concussed, now you have heavy liability. You're on, if the guy goes out there and he wasn't cleared and he somehow dies or gets a brain injury, then that team is, you know, under heavy, you know, big time liability issues, you know, for the family of the player. And I think the NFL has done a lot. They've done a lot of research. They put in millions and millions and millions of dollars on the CTE. But at the same time, these guys know what they're signing up for. So I think when the guy gets a concussion, if it's even close, they have to take him out. They have to be safe rather than sorry. You know, a lot of these guys, you go back in the day and they say, you know, they probably had like 70 concussions and they never left the game. You know, that's before they just said, you know, rub some dirt on it and get back in the game, you know. So I think it's really a touchy issue right now, but at the same time, it's a sport that's it's a violent sport. And, you know, head injuries are going to happen. And, you know, I can attest that these guys, you know, when they're 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, they're not thinking about long-term. You know, they're thinking about what can I do now. They're thinking that football is going to last forever. And, you know, just like what Hoy Hoy Toy Toy was saying, no matter how much money you give someone in 10 years, 15 years, they might not be able to walk with their kids or even know who they are anymore. So I think it's a huge issue. And, you know, as far as Savage goes, I mean, Houston's done for the year. But, you know, if it's a no-win situation for the team to put a guy back out in the field if he was just concussed.
All right, McLovin, Carson Wentz tears his ACL. EDP was freaking out about it. Ready to fire Doug Peterson for his horrible play calling. What do you think of the Eagles' chances? Stephen A. Smith on ESPN said it's not really going to be that much of a drop off.
Well, Stephen A. Smith's an idiot. So.
Foles was a Pro Bowl quarterback. Don't forget.
Well,
we'll go for what do you think on that?
You know, I think Philadelphia is still a very good football team. Obviously, losing a guy who was having arguably the best year of any quarterback or any player in the league, he was really coming into his own. You know, he's a big dude. He makes plays with his feet. You know, he makes some throws that not a lot of quarterbacks can make. He was becoming a leader. He was really driving that offense. You know, they were flying on all cylinders, you know, for, you know, 14 weeks this season. And to see a guy like that go down with an ACL, you know, I think it's comparable to when, you know, what's his name for the Carr went down last year. He was having such a great year. And then, you know, I don't know. Foles is obviously not Wentz, but at the same time, he is one of the better.
Better than Hoyer.
Yes. Well, he is one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL. And, you know, I think they do still have a good defense. I don't think it's the end of the world, but at the same time, you know, anytime you lose your quarterback, you know, a guy that was probably going to win the MVP, you can't replace him, you know, even for even. So other guys are going to have to step up, and Nick Foles, you know, that's why they have backup quarterbacks to step in and, you know, carry the load and, you know, hopefully that they can count on their running game and then their wideouts and then especially their defense to carry them through the division into the playoffs. So time will tell. I think if they can somehow get home field advantage, I think that will help them a lot. I think their odds to win the NFC just came down a couple of notches just because Wentz was that important to that team.
All right, hoy hoy. Falcons can make their playoff surge with 3 games remaining. So, with nothing but division games left on the schedule, the Falcons, who are in the hunt, they're not even in the playoffs at this point. They're 7-4. Are they 8-5? 7-5? 8-5? No. 9? Yeah, 8-5. I think the Falcons are 8-5, but they can still win the NFC South and host a home game in the playoffs. They're a game out of the game behind. So, Dad,
8-5.
8-5.
Yeah.
3 games remaining. Does Atlanta make the playoffs? What do you think?
I think
they're in the playoffs right now.
Oh,
I think
wild card.
Yep.
Okay.
not only does Atlanta make the playoffs, but I predict them to win the NFC title
Wow.
and go to the Super Bowl.
Bold prediction.
Philadelphia is done.
Okay.
So the door is wide open for Atlanta. They're playing their best now. They seem to have their act together. And Ryan is always a very dangerous quarterback. So I think Atlanta, I would favor them to win the NFC and make it to the Super Bowl.
Well, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think that this is the right time to get your odds out. I bet you they're about 15 to 20-1. So put some money down there, you might win. But Atlanta is really a shaky. I mean, you look at this team that's 8-5. It's the same team that was up. They were up
28-3.
20. Well, that they blew it. They choked against New England, obviously, but they were killing the lonely Dolphins, and the Dolphins came back and beat them at home. So if they can point back to a couple games, that's one of them. But then they beat the Saints at home. They go on the road and beat Seattle at Seattle. We saw how difficult that was for Philly to do so. They have a great head coach. I really like Dan Quinn. I worked with him when I was in San Francisco. He's a great guy, great defensive mind. They're sitting there at 85 right now. They have the tiebreaker with Seattle, who's also 85 because they beat them head to head. So if they win the final 3 games, they're definitely in. Do you know who their final 3 opponents are? You said that they're all divisional opponents.
Well, it's got to be who's in the division with them.
Carolina, New Orleans, and Tampa.
All 3 of them.
So I think that I think they have to win at least 2 of those, at least 2. But the NFC playoff picture is really with Wentz going down. Minnesota, is right there. The Rams and New Orleans. I mean, 1 through 6, even 1 through 8. There's really 8 good football teams. 6 will make it out of the NFC, and the AFC is just a disaster this year as far as playoffs go. But in the NFC playoffs, every game is going to be important, and there's no gimmies. There's no Buffaloes. There's no Tennessees. There's no Jacksonvilles in the playoffs. They're all solid teams with good quarterbacks, and I think Matt Ryan is playing good football. They got one of the best receivers in the game. They have a great running game. They have a good defense, and at any point in time, Atlanta has a 6 seed. If they do get a 6 seed, I can guarantee it's a team that nobody wants to play. So it should shape up to be fun to watch.
All right, hoy hoy. A first-round bye is still in play for the Vikings with 3 games remaining. So you've already picked Atlanta to win the NFC, but here's the deal. Even though they lost to Carolina, the Vikings, Minnesota, they're 10-3. They're number 2 right now in the NFC. The Vikings are still in position for a bye and have a shot at the top seed in the NFC. So you're saying that you don't think Minnesota has a chance to go to the Super Bowl. You're still picking Atlanta, correct?
I'm picking Atlanta over Minnesota. I think Minnesota has some flaws. I think they'll get exposed when they play really top talent teams. And I think Philadelphia is going to, Matt Ryan is going to pick apart their defense.
Okay, McLovin, Chargers gearing up for December games you grow up dreaming about. At 7-6, the Chargers will hit the road to face the Kansas City Chiefs. By the way, they started 0-4, the Chargers did, and now they're 7-6, and they have a chance to claim the top spot outright in the AFC West.
I'll tell you what, you got to give a lot of credit. Anthony Lynn has really done a hell of a job. Turned that team around. I know we were talking early, and we were more or less counting them out for a couple different reasons. One, Kansas City started off 5-0, and you never figured that the Chargers, would ever get back in the playoff picture. But right there, they're sitting there at 7-6, and they're mathematically they're tied with Buffalo and Baltimore for that last wild card, but Buffalo, I think, with the mathematics, is in right now. With that being said, it's a West Coast team. A lot of us don't get to always see a lot of those West Coast games, but they got a legitimate defense. Their defense,
Chargers,
yes,
yeah.
They have a really, really good defense. They have a veteran quarterback in Rivers. They have solid Keenan Allen as a receiver. They have Melvin Gordon.
Isn't Gage still there?
Yeah, but he's
all
a
done.
shell of himself.
Okay.
But and I think that defense is really going to carry them. I think they'll beat Kansas City at Kansas City. The Chargers have just been on a roll lately, and just like Atlanta, they're playing football. They're playing their best football at the right time. And I would think that if they were to play today, I'd take the Chargers over. And Jacksonville would be a hell of a game. So I think the Chargers are rolling right now, even though they have probably the worst fan base in the NFL. They're still finding ways to win games, and that's what you have to do.
All right, Giants wide receiver Darius Poe placed their NFL debut with a broken foot. He broke his foot on his first career catch, but he was able to gut it out and finish the game.
I watched this game. This was the only game on here on Sunday. It was a tough game to watch. Dallas ended up killing it. It was a 10-10 game until 5 minutes left over. And then Dallas scored 20 straight points. But I think this kid. Anytime you have injuries to your top 2 or 3 wideouts, you gotta see what the young guys can do. And I think he's got a lot of potential. He's got a lot of talent. He's still very, very raw. You could tell that, not working a lot with Eli Manning. He had some bad routes he ran, and, he went one way and Manning went the other way in a couple passes. But with that being said, this is a time when your team's 2-10. This is a time to get the young guys out there, the rookies out there, to see what you got. I think this is a guy that they still would want to develop, and it might be a blessing in disguise, so a silver lining to see how this guy develops in the final 2 or 3 games. So I think he's going to be a good player. It all depends. I think that the whole Giant situation, I know we went into it last week, but with all that being said, you're going to see a lot of changes throughout the roster as well as the front office. So, I don't see how this kid doesn't get better every year.
Hoy hoy. Bill O'Brien is expecting to return as the Houston Texans head coach. He has 1 year left on his contract, and he said on Monday he expects to be back as the Texans head coach in 2018. What do you think? Does he get fired or does he come back?
Well, I think he should come back, but you never know. Management has the tendency to fire coaches when the team doesn't do well. They don't account for injuries. They say, well, somebody is hurt, like J.J. Watt. Well, why don't we get Joe Jones to fill in for him? No difference, same thing.
Correct.
You can't get rid of you can't lose a top players on your team and expect the team to do as well as when the team has all its best players out on the field. So whatever problems are going on in Houston, Bill O'Brien should not be the scapegoat, and he shouldn't lose his job. That doesn't mean he won't.
Correct.
I agree 100%. I think that O'Brien, I think he's done a better than average job. Once again, it's these knee-jerk reactions that these owners make. They fire a guy just to fire a guy, but that doesn't really solve any. Then they have to go out and rehire another guy. Then they have to come up with a new offense and a new defense. I think Houston played its best football for that 4-game period when they had Deshaun Watson in there. and they were scoring points, 40 points a game. I think that you got to take that, with all the guys when they're healthy. That's what you got to look at as a head coach. When you have these guys go down, big name guys go down, the head coach can only do so much. Now, with that being said, I'd be shocked. I'd be absolutely shocked if they fired OBrien. He's got 1 year left on his deal. You might as well ride it out. And I think this team, if they stay healthy, they can get Watson back to they have so much young talent on that team that can fly around. And I think when Watt's healthy, when Jadeveon Clowney's healthy, when their defense and their corners and their safeties are healthy, I think they can play football with anybody in the league. But it's always seemed like Bill O'Brien has, he just can't get over that hump. See, they're rolling well, and then something happens, and then that ends the season for them. So, and it's very difficult for these starters to go out and these backups to come in. That's why I always say you got to give a lot of credit to the New England Patriots. I know we talk about the Patriots a lot, but New England has just as many injuries as everybody else, and they always find somebody to step up. And it's not skipping a beat. They go 10, they go 11-5 or 12-4, and every time we watch these guys, we're like, who's that? Who's 39? I mean, who's that guy? How many times have we seen that? And we're diehard Pats fans, and they just pick up these guys off of waivers, and So with that being said, I think Bill O'Brien deserves 1 year. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a good coach, and I think he's a quarterback coach, so you got to give him time to work with the future and Deshaun Watson.
All right, well, we appreciate Hoy Hoy Toy Toy being on the show. All right, and stay tuned for more NFL Week 15 as the week continues.
Sure, it's great having you.
Good to be on television. Have a wonderful.
All right, welcome back to the second half of the show. Unfortunately, Hoy Hoy Toy Toy could not be with us, but we got Tomlin's all in on the Pat Steelers buzz. Steelers coach Mike Tomlin says Sunday's game against the Patriots is the kind of high-profile spot his team has been fighting for all season.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. It's really going to determine home field advantage. New England coming off a terrible game. And, Pittsburgh's been gearing up for this game. They've been talking about it for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I think New England's going to win the game. Pittsburgh's defense is not good at all, and New England has played well over Pittsburgh over the Pat, it's gonna be a great game, and I think Tomlin is wants to get back into Pats for last year, but I think New England will win the game.
Savage tweets he's, quote, fine, defends Bill O'Brien. Tom Savage tweeted in defense of Bill O'Brien, writing that, quote, nobody cares more about his players than the coach, who has been criticized after Savage played one series after his hands appeared to be shaking involuntarily, following a massive hit Sunday.
See how he recovers after, the concussion or whatever. And but I think, Bill O'Brien is a good coach, and he really cares about his players.
Josh McCown confides to teammate, quote, that might be my last pass. Josh McCown's broken hand brought an end to his 15th NFL season, and the possibility of retirement is likely in the quarterback's mind.
Yeah, that's shocking that he's been in the league for 15 years. We'll see what happens at the end of the year. I think if he recovers, I think he'll be a backup somewhere next year.
RG3, quote, came pretty close to playing in 2017. Robert Griffin III says he received interesting offers to play this season, including workouts with the Chargers and an opportunity to play in the Ravens' first preseason game, but opted to wait and prepare himself for 2018.
I think even if he was healthy, I don't know anyone that would want him. RG3's had a rocky career, and even if he was healthy, I don't know how what he could do to help any team out there. So maybe if he's healthy next year, someone will give him a shot.
Patriots close to deal with wide receiver Britt. The Patriots are close to a deal with wide receiver Kenny Britt, who was waived by the Browns on Friday. The former first-round pick has been dogged by off-field issues. At 6'2", he'd give quarterback Tom Brady a bigger target. I remember a couple of years ago, Belichick wanted to sign him, but with all his shenanigans, Robert Kraft said there's no way he's coming to us.
Actually, they did sign him, so
Oh, it's official now?
Yeah, as far as I know. and that was a couple days ago, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It says he's close to deal with wide receiver, but I'm talking about earlier, like 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh yeah, he's.
Robert Kraft said there's no way he's coming over.
He's had a lot of off the field problems, but it's definitely going to help. I think last week was eye opening for a lot of people. I give him a pass. I think everyone just played poorly, but at 6'2", he's going to be obviously the biggest receiver there. Hogan, is still injured. Amendola didn't play as well. They're going to get Gronk back, so I think he's definitely going to help out.
Ex-NFLer Larry Johnson, I believe I have CTE. In an interview with Washington Post, former NFL running back Larry Johnson talked of his violent tendencies, memory loss, anxiety, and paranoia, saying those symptoms are consistent with former players who died from CTE.
Yeah, that sounds like he's got all that. We'll see how it goes forward, but I don't really have much to comment on. I know he was a good running back. He ran hard. I remember watching him play. I think he went to Penn State, but he was a big running back that looked for contact. So those guys are going to have that issue after the football playing career is over.
Fans sue Saints over protests during anthem. A Saints season ticket holder has filed a lawsuit against the team, saying he never would have bought the tickets if he had known that players would, quote, use Saints football games as a platform for protests.
I like the idea. I don't know how far it's going to go, but those people down in Louisiana aren't always the smartest bunch. But I like his thinking, but I don't know how far it's going to go.
Jaguars can clinch first playoff berth since 2007 by beating Texans. Jaguars coach Doug Marrone wants his team focused on the Texans and not on what a win could mean for the franchise.
Yeah, they've had a hell of a year, a little up and down, but their defense is a real deal. That's a big win against Seattle at home. I remember when the last time they made the playoffs in 2007. That's when they had Maurice Jones-Drew and I forget who the head coach was back then. They had
it wasn't Fox.
Fox probably, yeah, and they had Byron Leftwich, and so good. They deserve to make the playoffs, and I think they'll beat Houston. So I think they'll clinch a playoff bid.
Bills reaching 8-6 has been elusive over a 17-year playoff drought. This is the 5th time since 1999 that Buffalo has had a 7-6 record through 13 games.
Yeah, I mean, to look back on it, yeah, it's weird, but they always end up in the same spot every single year. And this year they got to it a little differently. They started off 3-1. Everyone thought that this is the year they were gonna win 10, 11 games, and then they had that whole thing with benching the quarterback and putting in Peterman.
Peterman with his scared Peter.
Yeah, with 5 interceptions in the first half against San Diego. They had a new head coach this year. They have a new general manager. If they run the table, I'm sure they'll be a playoff team. I don't know where they stand. I had the standings out last time.
Who, the Bills?
Yeah, we'll see. So if the season ended today, okay.
Today.
Let's go. Playoff picture. Buffalo would be the 6th seed. So you're looking at Pittsburgh as the number 1 seed, New England as a 2 seed, Jacksonville as a 3 seed, Kansas City as a 4, Tennessee, and then Buffalo. And then Baltimore and the Chargers are tied with Buffalo with a record-wise. So,
but the Chargers are also tied with the Chiefs for the division.
Correct.
Chargers have 2 chances to
correct. So, like I've been saying all year, the AFC is just is awful. But if Buffalo can somehow sneak into that 6th seed, they would play Jacksonville in the first round. I would not see them getting past Jacksonville at Jacksonville, and then they'd have to play either New England or Pittsburgh. So we'll see what happens. But this is a time when I love this time because now they play football on Saturdays, which is cool. Saturday and Sunday. So
Bruce Arians says Blaine Gabbert's smarts comparable to Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck.
Oh boy.
The Cardinals coach said that Blaine Gabbert has proven to have the intelligence level of two of his ex-proteges, both known for their smarts. I don't think Blaine Gabbert has a talent level, though, of the two.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I think that, Blaine Gabbert is Blaine Gabbert, and, it doesn't really matter how smart he is. He's, Blaine Gabbert.
Blaine Gabbert. That's the way the cookie crumbles. Bengals co-founder Pete Brown dies at age 74. He died yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Snow camouflaged Colts so much, the Broncos turned off the video. While preparing for Thursday's game, Broncos coach Van Joseph turned off video of the Bills and Colts in the snow after, quote, about 15 plays.
Say it again.
So the Broncos are facing the Colts tomorrow night.
Yeah.
They tried to watch the video, but the snow was in the way, so they turned it off.
The video of what?
Of the game between the Colts and the Broncos. I mean, the Colts and the whoever the hell the Colts and the Bills. Vance Joseph was watching film from the Colts and the Bills.
And the snow was...
The snow would block... Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Any comments on that?
No.
All right. Let's see. Aaron Rodgers' return spikes Packers' playoff percentage, but not by much. According to ESPN's Football Power Index, the Packers' chances of making the playoffs went up by 2.6% in the past day.
Well, Green Bay's sitting there at 7-6. We all thought that he was done for the year, but he's going to add a spark to the Packers, and if they can sneak in there and get that last wild card, no one's going to want to play them. No one's going to want to play Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how good he's going to be coming back after injury and being off for such a long time, but I think the team will get pumped for him, and we'll see what happens. But he's definitely better than Brett Hundley.
So Bill Belichick says roster moves are coming, and linebacker Jonathan Freeney was released.
Yeah, I know. Whenever you play a game like they played, and Belichick, obviously is not happy. I'm sure everyone has to fear for their job. I mean, you can a couple guys, maybe a handful of guys, don't have to worry about losing their job. But when you have a defense that with a bunch of no-name guys, everyone's really playing for their job every single week, and even that you're sitting there at 10-3, and you're one of the better teams in football. The roster changes, will continue to happen.
Broncos play safety Simmons with his ankle on IR. Justin Simmons' breakout season is over because of a sprained left ankle he sustained while celebrating a rare big play by the Denver Broncos in their first victory in 2 months. The Broncos play Simmons on injured reserve on Wednesday.
It's too bad. I don't really know much about the kid. I really haven't paid much attention to Denver because they've been so bad. But if he hurt himself on a celebration, then that's his own fault.
Alan Branch with his knee is not present at start of Patriots walkthrough. With Alan Branch's apparent knee injury on Monday night, the Patriots signed defensive tackle Ricky Jean-Francois.
Okay.
Wide receiver Kenny Britt took part in his first practice.
Ricky Jean. He was with San Francisco. Nice kid. He played incredibly well with San Francisco, and he really got along well with Jim Tomsula, who the defensive line coach was for us at the time. He's bounced around from place to place after he was released from San Francisco, so he's a really, really good player. He's a good talent, and I think he'll definitely help. Not having Branch is a beast. It doesn't look like he's going to be ready for Pittsburgh, but Ricky Jean, if he'll get snaps, I think he'll play well.
Seahawks had linebacker Paul Dawson with Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright ailing, and right guard Odea Abushi was put on injured reserve to clear a roster spot.
No comments.
Okay, Super Bowl 32 odds. Patriots still the favorites to win Super Bowl 32.
Well, yeah.
32, I'm an idiot. You know what I meant, 52.
Yeah, sure. No, I think they still are the best team in the NFL. I think, Andy, along with a lot of other Patriot fans, weren't happy with the performance the other night. And, I think it was just a bad night. They struggled down in Miami. I think they'll bounce back. I think they'll beat Pittsburgh pretty handily on Sunday. And then they'll lock up the 1 seed, and then it'll be, road through New England to the Super Bowl. So I'm not worried about, New England not being in the Super Bowl this year.
Nick Foles on Eagles offense, quote, nothing is going to change. Foles is ready to take over for the injured Carson Wentz. Quote, I love this city, I love this team, and I love this organization. My job is to go out and lead.
It'll be interesting. Nick Foles is not terrible. Okay, he's a decent backup. Philly, they're reeling after the loss, their quarterback, Carson Wentz. It'll be interesting to see how Foles fills in. They're still, 11-2, and the East is locked up. Now they're just really battling for home field advantage. But I think Nick Foles he's played a lot of football. He's a veteran. I think he'll come in and do the job. What everybody else needs to do is play that much better without Wentz being there. So I still think Philly will be there. I think it's imperative now that they have home field so they don't have to travel in the playoffs. But I don't think Nick Folk is terrible. I think he'll do a good enough job to get them to where they need to be.
Patriots have had some of their most memorable moments at Heinz Field.
Mm-hmm.
The Patriots will travel to Pittsburgh and play at a stadium where they've gone 5-2 and won 2 AFC title games in the Bill Belichick era.
Yeah, I know. I'll never forget the first one in 2001 when it was
Bledsoe to come in.
Bledsoe, passed to Troy Brown.
Yeah.
I think they held Bettis that day to like 6 rushes from -2 yards or something like that. I hate Pittsburgh. I just hate them. And New England has owned Pittsburgh and will always own Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh. And, I think nothing's really going to change this week. I think they'll go in there and like I said, I think they're going to beat Pittsburgh pretty handily.
For Steelers, battle with Tom Brady begins before ball is even snapped. In his past 7 games against Pittsburgh, the Patriots quarterback has 22 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and 6 wins.
Yeah, especially this year, I don't see a change. This is a Pittsburgh defense that just gave up 38 points to Baltimore. They don't have they lost Shazier and his backup went down. I think whoever scores, obviously. The question is how the New England's defense can do against Pittsburgh's offense if they can, shut them down as best as they can. But I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair, and I think New England will be out, be on top after the whistle's blown.
Well, last week against the spread, I went 8-8, and McLovin went 6-10. So the overall standings now, I am 99-102-7. With McLovin 98-103-7, so I'm a game ahead of him there. And then as far as picks go, I went 8-8. McLovin went 5-11. One of his worst weeks, I think, since the show has started. Was able to gain 3 games on him, so I'm now 124-84. He is now 130-78. 6 games up. And everyone last week won a gift card, with the exception of a few people. I don't know how that's even possible, so let's go through it. So last week, Yes to Anything That Is Cool Awesome went 9-7. CV Gunn went 8-8. Levmaker went 8-8. Dan McLean went 9-7. And Jennifer went 6-10. Jennifer Lynn. 6-10 wins a gift card this week. Blake Rios 8-8 and Dennis Ramirez 8-8. Cali Guy tied you, went 5-11.
That's so bad.
Vadix went 4-12. He is the worst week of the thing. And then Steve Goldman, Where Art Thou? 0-16. So the updated standings for the main division. In first place, overall and in the division, we have Yes to Anything That Is Cool Awesome, 135-73. This might be the end of you because Hold on, where are we here? I just want to make sure I have his stats right. 120, yeah, 135 and 73. He has a 5-game lead over you for the overall standings. So anything's possible. There's still 3 weeks left, but who knows? Second place, C.B. Gunn is now 134 and 74. He's a game out. Third place, we have Dan McLean at 130 and 78. He's tied with you, 5 games out. Fourth place, we have Lev Maker at 127 and 81, 8 games out. Fifth place, we have Vaddix at 119 and 89, 16 games out. Sixth place, we have Cali Guy at 115 and 93, 20 games out. And then last place, Steve Goldman, 83 and 125. He is 52 games out. Now, in the Peon division, Jennifer Lynn, even though she went 6 and 10, she still has a commanding lead. She's 90 and 57. Second place, Dennis Ramirez at 81 and 66, 9 games out. And last place, Blake Rios, 76 and 71, 14 games out. So let's go right on into the scores, and we'll do the spreads here. Thursday night, tomorrow night's game, we have Denver 4-9, 0-6 on the road, going into Indy, 3-10, 2-4 at home. Denver's favored by 2.5.
Give me Indy plus the points.
And I'm taking Denver minus 2.5. You're taking Indy plus 2.5. Next up, we have Saturday at 4:30. We have the Chicago Bears 4-9, 2-4 on the road, going into Detroit 7-6, 2-4 at home. Detroit at home favored by 5.5.
Give me Detroit minus 5.5.
Yeah, I agree there. Saturday night game, 8:25 p.m. The Los Angeles Chargers 7-6, 3-3 on the road, going into Kansas City. This is the battle for the division. 7-6, 4-2 at home. Chargers on the road favored by 1.
Chargers minus 1.
I agree. Sunday, Miami 6-7, 2-4 on the road, going into Buffalo 7-6, 5-2 at home. No line.
Let me check it out.
Yep.
No line here either. I would assume that it would be
Buffalo minus 3.
No, I think it'd be Miami coming off of there. Let me try to find it. You can go ahead and go with.
No, we'll wait here.
Okay.
If you can't find it, we'll just do a straight pick 'em on this game. We'll take it off the spread.
What does it have it at? I think it's a pick 'em.
Yeah, so it'd be Buffalo minus 3, right? Or no?
No.
No, just pick 'em.
Pick 'em.
All right, so who are you taking?
Buffalo.
All right. Really? I'm going to take Miami. You have Buffalo. All right. Next up, we have Baltimore 7-6, 3-4 on the road, going into Cleveland 0-13, 0-7 at home. Baltimore favored by 7.
Cleveland plus 7.
I agree. Next up, Cincinnati 5-8, 2-4 on the road, going into Minnesota 10-3, 5-1 at home. Minnesota favored by 10.5.
Who are they?
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati plus 7.5.
I agree. Next up, New York Jets 5-8, 1-5 on the road, going into New Orleans 9-4, 5-1 at home. New Orleans favored by 15.
Oh God, Jets plus 15.
Yep. All right. Next up, we have Philadelphia 11-2, 5-2 on the road, going into New York to face the Giants 2-11, 1-5 at home. Philadelphia favored by 7.5.
Giants plus 7.5.
I agree. Next up, we have Arizona 6-7, 2-4 on the road, going into Washington 5-8, 3-3 at home. Washington favored by 4.
Oh boy. Arizona plus 4.
I agree. Next up, Green Bay 7-6, 3-3 on the road, going into Carolina 9-4, 4-2 at home. Return of Aaron Rodgers. Carolina at home favored by 3.
Green Bay plus 3.
I have Carolina minus 3. Next up, Houston 4-9, 1-5 on the road, going into Jacksonville 9-4, 5-2 at home. Jacksonville favored by 10.5.
Oh boy, Houston plus 10.5.
I agree. Next up, Los Angeles 4:05 game. Los Angeles Rams 9-4, 5-1 on the road, going into Seattle 8-5, 4-2 at home. Seattle favored by 2.
Seattle -2.
Taking the Rams. All right, next up, the 4:25 game. New England 10-3, 6-1 on the road, going into Pittsburgh 11-2, 5-1 at home. New England favored by 3.
New England -3.
All right, next up we have Tennessee 8-5, 3-4 on the road, going into San Francisco 3-10, 1-5 at home. San Francisco favored by 2.
Over Tennessee?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Give me Tennessee plus the points.
Taking San Francisco. Dallas 8:30 Sunday night game. Dallas 7-6, 4-2 on the road, going into Oakland 6-7, 4-3 at home. Dallas favored by 3 on the road.
Oakland +3.
Taking Dallas. And then Monday night's game, we have Atlanta 8-5, 4-2 on the road, going into Tampa 4-9, 3-3 at home. Atlanta on the road favored by 6.5.
Touchdown. Tampa plus the points.
Taking Atlanta. All right, so when we go to the pick'ems now, let's go to the right to the pick'ems. Here we go. So Thursday, tomorrow night, Denver, Indy. Who do you have?
Indianapolis.
Taking Denver. Next up, we have Saturday, Chicago, Detroit.
Detroit.
Okay, I agree. Next up, Saturday night, Los Angeles Chargers, Kansas City.
Chargers.
I agree. Sunday, Miami, Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Taking Miami. Next up, Baltimore, Cleveland.
Baltimore.
Okay, I agree. Next up, Cincinnati, Minnesota.
Minnesota.
I agree. Next, New York Jets, New Orleans.
New Orleans.
I agree. Philadelphia, Giants.
Philadelphia.
I agree. Arizona, Washington.
Washington.
Taking Arizona. Green Bay, Carolina.
Carolina.
I agree. Houston, Jacksonville.
Jacksonville.
I agree. Los Angeles Rams, Seattle.
Seattle.
Taking the Rams. New England, Pittsburgh.
New England.
I agree. Tennessee, San Francisco.
Tennessee.
Taking San Francisco. Dallas, Houston, Oakland.
Dallas.
Okay, I agree. And then Atlanta, Tampa.
Atlanta.
I agree. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned next week. And it's an igloo up in this motherfucker because electric heat's expensive. Thanks for watching.
All right.